Good evening. You are tuning in to AWANI Tonight with me, Saraya Mia. Daily cases back up to 2,000. MOH proposes no interstate travel for Hari Raya. And political financing, how to ensure system not open to abuse. That's coming up. New COVID-19 cases breached 2,000 for the first time in over 40 days. The number of infections has continued its ascending trend, with 2,148 new cases recorded today. Sarawak tops the list with 512 cases, followed by Selangor, Kelantan and Sabah. Meanwhile, Health Minister Datuk Dr. Adam Baba proposed that interstate travel for the Hari Raya celebrations be postponed because the COVID-19 transmission rate is still at a worrying level. This, he said, is also due to a new variant of COVID-19 in the community and the ongoing national COVID-19 vaccination program. Interstate travel is allowed for those who need to bring their dependents to COVID-19 vaccination appointments. Vaccine Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said the National Security Council has given the green light for one person per family to cross state lines to ensure such appointments are kept.
In a tweet, Khairi said children living in other states would only have to show proof of their parents' appointments to get the clearance to travel interstate. Khairi also announced that Malaysia has procured enough COVID-19 vaccines from Pfizer-BioNTech to cover half the population. He added that it may increase to 70%, while Sinovac vaccines will cover 20%. Last month, China said it will ease restrictions on foreigners travelling into the country on the condition that they have received a China-made COVID-19 vaccine.
Former Attorney General Tan Sri Apandi Ali's integrity has been questioned after he exonerated former Prime Minister Datuk Sri Najib Tun Razak of misappropriating funds belonging to SRC International when evidence proved otherwise. Ad hoc prosecutor Datuk V. Sitambaram said this during rebuttal to Najib's appeal hearing against his conviction for the case heard in the Court of Appeal today. Sitambaram said the flowcharts which Apandi held during his press conference in 2016 clearly showed funds from SRC International entering Najib's bank accounts were not the Arab donation as claimed by Najib throughout his defence. Sitambaram submitted this before a three-member bench led by Judge Dato Abdul Karim Abdul Jalil. The other two judges on the bench were Dato Hassanah Mehat and Dato Wazir Alamaiden Mira. The government is confident in achieving the economic growth projection of between 6 and 7.5% this year if the current economic situation continues to show recovery. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Economy, Datuk Sri Mustafa Muhammad, said the optimism was supported by several positive signs that showed the country is heading towards economic recovery.
He says the sign includes rising February exports, declining unemployment rate in February, the development of industrial indices, as well as rising commodity prices. The International Monetary Fund (IMF) has also projected Malaysia's growth to be at 6.5% this year. Dokpa added the government will face challenges in planning Budget 2022 due to the unstable COVID-19 situation and other constraints such as the country's financial standing.
A recent report by anti-corruption non-government organization C4 revealed that there are linkages between political financing and the abuse of foundations by high-profile political figures. In order to eradicate this, Segambut MP Hannah Yeo believes that allocation given to members of parliament must be reassessed to ensure no space for corruption.
Through the Implementation Coordination Unit, government MPs currently receive 3.5 million ringgit allocation for their constituency, while opposition MPs only receive 100,000 ringgit. For government MPs, an extra 300,000 ringgit is given for office rental, salary staff and service centre. The same is not given for the opposition.
The most important thing is to ensure that members of parliament can function by, having sufficient allocation to do the basic. I'm talking about service center, paying of rental, utilities, and I'm talking about paying salary. For some areas, for constituency, some areas, rural areas, it's very hard for them to do fundraising. So while in Segambut, I can do an online fundraising and my residents in Kuala Lumpur will contribute. But for somebody like YB Munira in Kota Belud, it is quite challenging to do fundraising in the rural area. So I think for a start, the government needs to do better than Harapan. Even though Harapan has given 100,000, I hope that we will be able to see at least the 300,000 for service centers and for paying of salaries can be released to all MPs. Doesn't matter whether you're government or opposition. And I think this fund should not be monitored by the government, but should be dispersed through Parliament. That means once you're an elected member of Parliament, you should be entitled to this 300,000 ringgit. I think that will be a good start for everybody.
Other than this, Hannah also urged for ICU to abandon the use of NGOs for payments to rid of corruption that is prevalent in foundations.
ICU requires payment to be made to an NGO. So what a lot of elected reps are made to do, they are forced or they have no choice but to set up NGOs just so that payment can be made through these NGOs. Now, I don't want to do that, but that would mean for me, I have to call up residents and association and say, anybody willing to be made the outfit for me to pay or to reimburse expenses made. So I think for a start, ICU needs to stop this practice of only paying through NGOs because elected reps are going to form NGOs. And today there can be so many NGOs that are loosely formed by politicians just to disguise. A lot of these foundations have been abused simply because the donors, people who are donating money, will feel that, well, it's a foundation for welfare. Well, it's a foundation for religious purpose. And so people let their guard down and people stop questioning, people stop asking, and there's less accountability. So I think moving forward, members of public who want to donate to foundations or even organizations pertaining to charities or religious purpose, you should expect the same level of governance expected of corporations. And I think that is the new standard that we need to push for. So
Malaysia is on the brink of losing its Malayan tigers. Perak State Parks Corporation Director Shah Reza Hussain said Malaysia only has 24 to 36 months to save the species from extinction. Drastic actions need to be taken, but with illegal poaching still posing the biggest threat to wildlife survival, how can we better protect Malayan tigers?
Because it's a syndicated, and so we need to have other agencies involved in not only on the ground anti-poaching, that the rangers and the PGAs and the wildlife rangers will do, but beyond that, the buyers, the seller, the traders, so you have to get AMLA, the Anti-Money Laundering Act in. We have to get the customs in. You have to get the immigration in. You have to have an integrated approach.
On Monday, Energy and Natural Resources Ministry mooted to amend the Wildlife Conservation Act 716/2010 to increase penalties and fines for offenders. According to Shah, the current challenge in amending the act is to get state-level approval and to speed up implementation by tabling it in Parliament.
To strengthen that is to make sure that the Wildlife Act is strengthened for penalties. So currently, the maximum is 500,000 ringgit for animal parts. So I think Wildlife Department wants it to be 1 million, so that if you are caught with 3 animal parts, you are charged with 3 separate accounts, and that's 3 million. So they really want to hit the syndicate, because if you put very light charges, they'll just pay. It's small money for them. So the Wildlife Act revised has been done. Is currently being reviewed at state level, and then once that is sorted out, because as you understand, all land issues are state. So the Wildlife Act has to get state consent also, or at least state understand what the changes are.
We'll take a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. India's second wave of COVID-19 infection shows no signs of slowing down. The country reported more than 200,000 cases, its highest one-day surge since the pandemic broke out. Most of the new infections are being reported in the western state of Maharashtra, which is home to financial capital Mumbai. The state went into a lockdown set to last until May 1st. Pressure is mounting on hospitals treating COVID patients, with many reporting severe shortages of beds and oxygen supplies. Hong Kong plans to widen its COVID-19 inoculation scheme to include individuals aged between 16 to 29 years old. This move is taken to boost inconsistent vaccination progress, driven by dwindling confidence towards China's Sinovac vaccine and fears of adverse reactions. The suggestion came 3 days after Chief Executive Carrie Lam mooted to loosen coronavirus restrictions for residents fully inoculated by end of April. Hong Kong's vaccination program showed slow progress since it started in February. So far, only 8% out of the 7.5 million residents of the Special Administrative Region were vaccinated. While residents of Hong Kong were given the choice to choose their COVID vaccine, most preferred Pfizer-BioNTech's Comirnaty over the CoronaVac. Myanmar security forces opened fire on a pro-democracy protest by medical workers in the city of Mandalay. Local media reported at least one man was killed and several were wounded.
Meanwhile, in Yangon, protesters gathered to remember those who lost their lives since the military seized power in February. According to the Assistance Association for Political Prisoners, at least 715 people were killed by security forces in anti-coup demonstrations. Protests continued in various parts of Myanmar, even as people boycotted the official celebration of Tingyan, the country's traditional New Year.
In other news, Japan's ruling party has warned that cancelling the Tokyo Olympics remains an option if rising COVID-19 cases in the country made the event impossible. The world's biggest sporting event has already delayed by a year and is being held without international spectators.
With just 99 days left till the start of the Games, Toshihiro Nikai, Secretary General of the Liberal Democratic Party, said if Olympics were to spread infections, then what are the Olympics for? Japan is grappling with rising COVID-19 infections, with numbers trending higher in Tokyo after the government ended the state of emergency, while Osaka posting a record 1,130 new cases on Wednesday. Experts say the country is in a fourth wave of the pandemic, with official figures showing more than 36,000 active cases.
Was Malaysia's exclusion from the U.S. leaders' summit on climate as significant as critics claim? Tonight on Consider This, we speak to our panelists about our readiness to participate in global climate conversations like COP26. That is all we have for you on AWANI tonight. Get the latest news updates on COVID-19 and COVID-19 vaccines from astroawani.com and the Astro AWANI app. I'm Saraya Mia. We'll see you tomorrow.